Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
What's going on?
Oh, nothing.
Got to meet with my Christian friends this morning.
How'd that go?
One of them wasn't there. He had to work a little, but the other two were, and I had a fourth one that died of COVID.
That's right.
So one had died since the last time we were together. It was good. I'm glad to see everyone. They were talking about in church how, they're all heavily involved in church. Two are very involved. One's an elder of a church. And they all have a really good, what I would think of as a good relationship with God. They're serious about, their walk. They're what people would call really, they would witness, they would do all that kind of stuff, right? One's a little quieter, but two of them would be outwardly very charismatic about what they believe and all of that. It was just interesting. I asked them how their relationship with God had changed, if it had influenced it, and they were all kind of like, no, not really. I was a little disappointed there wasn't more. They've gotten to a point and stopped, with their seeking of, for some reason. I haven't quite identified that yet. Maybe because I still know there's more, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think they know there's more. I think they're happy with what they got. I guess that's it. It's kind of odd. I've never seen that before with them. Now we study stuff, but it's really, I see new things all the time. My walk with God, or what I think God is, just changes continually. I'm always having these little spiritual enlightenments all the time. And I guess I'm a little disappointed they're not seeing them too.
Yeah, it's hard to say, like the situation, especially with the pandemic and everything and lockdowns and all of that stuff being what it is. Everybody's going to deal with it a little bit differently,
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's pretty easy to, I don't know. I just think in some ways that's human nature, to feel like you've got it, to want to feel like you've got it figured out, to have, feel like you have it settled. I don't know. Once you start thinking of things like in terms of, mystery, or there's more things to know, it gets a lot harder to not know.
Yeah. And it makes you, at first it made me uneasy to have the possibility that I don't have this figured out. It's like, am I going to go to hell for this? That was my, oh my God, wait a minute. Am I what I mean? All that stuff, that fear starts creeping in, At first, that was, like, what if I don't have it figured out? Oh my God, and that vulnerableness that brings.
Yeah.
And then learning to be comfortable with that,
So much of my early Christianity was just this, like, it brings so much certainty. You know what I mean? They, you have to know that and everybody around you knows, and there's nobody that doesn't know. You know what I mean? Everybody.
Do you you're going to heaven when you die?
Yeah.
That's the question, right?
Yeah. And then on top of that, if you're in church, everybody around you seems to know. They know where they're going, and they know that they're doing it the right way.
Now, I don't want to slam church.
Well, I'm not slamming church.
I just want to make sure that anybody who would listen, if I leave this in the podcast, knows that we're not being critical of church. It's just learning to get comfortable with not knowing, because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen when we die. We really don't know.
Yeah.
So I used to focus so much time on what was going to happen later that I never lived now.
Yeah.
And it really made me not be concerned with the moment, not being concerned with the environment, not being concerned with really anything else except me being ready. And I would love people and do things for people as a secondary thing, instead of being in the moment. I was really never in the moment.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of it. There's something about the and again, I'm not knocking church or the institution. I mean, there's
it's part of the path for us.
Yeah.
So it's nothing wrong with it. It was necessary for the path that we've been on. And if we hadn't had that part, if I hadn't had that part of the path, I wouldn't be where, learning what we're talking about now,
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So, it's back to the not good or bad. It just is.
Yeah. It's just it's an interesting way of thinking, when when everybody is, as a younger kid, like your parent, all of the adults around you, they all know, this is the way, and you have to do this, and this, and if you do this, this, and this, and everything's good, and then you find yourself, you're like, well, I've checked all the boxes, everything's good, and then when you check all the boxes and everything's supposed to be good and it's not good, or it doesn't feel good or whatever, then you're like, well, maybe something's off. And then you go on your way trying to figure out what that is. But then, whereas, and I'm just being hypothetical here, because like you said, the path was the path, it took what it took.
Every step is on the path, right?
Yeah. But, there's part of you that wonders if adults, as a kid, if the adults around you had been like, you know what, we don't know, we don't have it all together, this is just my best guess right now. This is this has been my experience so far, and that kind of like upfront honesty about things. You wonder if you would learn to hold not knowing in a different way from an earlier age,
And I remember the first times I remember getting any accolades from adults was when I joined the church and got, quote, saved.
Yeah.
And I liked getting accolades from adults. So that, I said, they're happy with me because I got saved. Okay. And so that I kind of put that back. And I think it's the first time I ever heard my father say he was proud of me, that kind of a thing,
Oh, wow.
When I'm like 7 or 8 years old, when
Yeah.
I joined the church, I mean, I even remember that. And I don't know how that has, who knows how that's affected me over the years, as far as that idea that church and Jesus and the whole deal. I got so many accolades. First time I ever thought people were really proud of me that I can recall, that I remember.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that factors into the whole thing. I don't know if you experienced that when you were a kid.
Yeah, certainly. It's a really, it's a very like, now you're accepted. Now you're a part of the community. Now you're part of our group. And it's like, being included, being accepted, especially at a young age, is extremely powerful motivator.
Now, my parents loved me. They told me they loved me. So it's not that, but it's just the first time I can recall experiencing that kind of acceptance, I guess would be a good word. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. I had to, I wanted to, during the pandemic for me, I got that meditation out. Well, I'm still recording more, but Sober Meditations got that to a place to where I could start talking about it. I started meditating more. I think I made a lot of good progress spiritually during the pandemic. And no, everything's the same. I'm like, same. You sure? Oh, yeah. I said, okay. So I just went on. And I decided just to start listening instead of wanting to talk about all the great things I'd been doing,
Yeah.
Had to get the focus off of me again. What's interesting, too, talking about that dogma and that idea of being right, I'm meeting with the sensei today after our meeting. I've got a couple of questions. Their dogma, I'm still on the fence. I don't know if I can buy in. I was in a meeting the other night and there was some God shaming going on. They have almost an opposite. If you have a God belief in quotes of any kind, like there was one girl that was talking about that she knew things were as they were supposed to be and that there was purpose, blah, blah, blah. And one of the guys just immediately came back and said, well, you don't mean that there's a God and there's a purpose with all of this, do you? Like attacking her, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I said, I didn't sign up for all of this. So it's, I don't know. I like meditating and I think I could learn some things from them. I've gotten some good epiphanies from the meetings I've gone to. All the books have a higher power of some type, a Buddha nature, God of some type, some source. But yet the individuals, really, from what I can gather, don't believe in any type of, higher power. So, and they want to be very vocal about that. And they want you to, it's almost like you've got to buy into that. I can't buy into that, I can't buy into that at this point.
Well, again,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Well, I was just thinking how I get nervous, anytime somebody's that sure of themselves about anything, it makes me nervous.
That's the same thing I'm talking about. It's the same sureness that I had in church when I was a kid. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Except the opposite.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, that's it. It's a lot of the similar kind of mindset, people are sure that there's a God and you can't question that belief. You know what I mean? It's unquestionable. If you do, it's heresy and you're going to hell and you can't even think about it because God is so fragile. If some tiny little human is saying, is there a God or not, he's going to crumble up and,
it's like a virus. You're going to infect everyone else.
Yeah. And it's the same way on the other side of it, people that are so sure that there's not a God, it's like, if you're openly curious and admit that you don't have it all figured out and maybe there's a God and maybe, we don't know how it is, we're just trying to figure it out, that's unsettling to anybody that are, either they're not as sure as they say they are or something,
I don't know
Because
if
like
it's a phrase, but they were God shaming. And I was like, what? I said, come on, guys. I said, I didn't say anything because, it's not up to me to straighten them out, But I thought, I said, what if, I know for me, if somebody wants to believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and I believe he was the Son of God, but I believe we're all sons of God. I believe it's all, my ideas are softening. If I had to say, am I still a Christian or not, I would say yes. But do I believe that other people are on paths that are going to get them to the same place or same? Yes. I believe it's just what another way that this source of the universe shows itself, and I think acceptance would be the way to go with that instead of, shaming people or shaming them with hell, Christianity, or shaming them and, that you don't have it figured out. You can't be a Buddhist and have any kind of God belief in their opinion. From what I can see, maybe I'm just, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm going to talk with a sensei about that today and just see if I can get a little better. And they're also liberal. And, I'm not liberal. I'm physically conservative and socially libertarian. And, I have a concern for the environment. That's as far liberal as I go. And I don't know. They're just all so far left. I just need to talk to, I just don't know. I think I need a teacher. I don't know if this guy can be it or not, or is it. I've been learning some good things from the talks I've been going to. So I don't know. We'll see. But it's interesting how similar it is to Christianity in attitude and dogma, and insisting and the guy leading the other night when this lady started talking about purpose, and I said, well, surely you don't mean this and this and this, And she was like, no, I didn't mean that. Like she's having to conform into their little Zen box,
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't need no boxes. Please. I've thrown them out and I'm not getting more.
Yeah. Well, I'm starting to wonder if that's even a real possibility at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that there's an umbrella you can come under that's going to be like, okay, here's no boxes. Sometimes I wonder.
The Unitarian Church is pretty close. They're pretty much anything goes, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's, I'm going to leave it open and just see. It's interesting. The books they read all have something of a higher power, Buddha nature, a source, a God, some source greater than you kind of source. But they don't seem to ascribe to that. They ignore that in the books we're reading, and so it's kind of I don't understand that. But I really enjoy some of like Joko Beck's book, Everyday Zen, is real good. I'm really enjoying the reading more than I am the study. But someone said something really good about acceptance the other day that I'd never heard. They said, if you're in a situation and it's bad and you're trying to accept it, this guy said, I found that if I just think, well, instead of having hope this situation's changing, what if I just accept things may never change?
Yeah.
He says, if I accept it as something that may never change, he says, I can accept it more, even though it's going to change. It's like a mind fuck, like a mind play, And I'm like, yeah. I wrote that one down. That was a good one.
I've heard it put similarly before. Yeah. That if things stay exactly the same as they are right now, it'll be okay. And And that's not like, I don't necessarily take that as like, nothing's going to change, or you can't do anything about it. It's just, it's kind of like you play out, if there's something you're worried about or whatever, you play out this worst case scenario in your mind, and then you accept it.
He was talking about a physical ailment.
Yeah.
Accepting something that was hurting, and not, he said, if I lose, if I don't keep thinking this is going to change, I can accept it more. So I thought that was good. Another thing I learned was we were talking about experience and relating to someone's experience. And they were talking about reading a book from your heart instead of your head, and that you hear the experience in what you're reading. And it was interesting that they had learned through meditation and through just practice to almost receive what they're reading into their heart without having to understand it first with a head knowledge. It was interesting. I haven't experienced that, but they had experienced that with some things they had read. These are guys that's been meditating for 20, 30 years kind of thing, So they're much further on that path than I am. But it was just interesting, things like that. So I'm picking up some good things. So don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I don't think I'll be able to drink the Kool-Aid,
Put some more sugar in it.
Oh, I don't know. It's just not. I can't drink the no God Kool-Aid, not yet. Don't know if I'll ever be able to.
Well, I mean, I don't know that there's. I mean, I can't see that there's a need to.
I don't think so either.
But
it's just interesting, the similarities. I never knew there would be those, But I did not like the God shaming. I mean, I didn't say anything, and I'm not going to. But that's just not for me.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I wonder if there's a way to, like, not necessarily, call somebody out like, hey, that's wrong. You can't think that, or you can't say that, but just, figure out what the right questions to ask are to get to to peel some layers back of that reasoning, that logic, that those thoughts or feelings.
I think they're probably, Zach, coming from the same place we came from with Christianity, in that it's all, for me, it seems to be a path toward this, we're all a drop of God. Like the Bhakti idea that God is love, and that the best description of God is this ocean of love, and that we're all drops out of that ocean. So that idea at first that there is a God, that there is a path of love. For us, that came through Christianity. Other people in the Zen, that can come through actually meditation. Then you lose self. I learned that through AA and the powerlessness. And the further I went with that, the more I realized that these divider lines that I had between these divisions started softening. And maybe it seems to all be moving toward that we're all part of this big collective body. That we're all one consciousness. And that this God that we've put as something out there is really in here in us. And that the idea of God is just the idea of this collective one, that we're all part of this one collective spiritually. So that seems to be the direction I'm heading. If I looked way off and saw the mountain that was distant that I was headed toward, that looks like the way everything is heading. Do I believe Jesus was the Son of God? Yes, I do. Do I believe we're all sons of God? Yes, I do. Can this soften from that down to we're all one, one intermingling being, and we just can't see it that way? Yeah. And maybe they're headed there, but just from a slightly different path. They have to come from the know God to, oh, okay, we're all one collective, and learning that it doesn't matter how you get there. It doesn't matter the path you're on, no more than for the Christian, it matters what path you're on, I don't know.
Yeah.
That idea that we have it figured out, though, has to go, no matter what we think the path is. So it's us four and no more. I think that I think that idea has to go. I don't know. I got all that digging around this morning. So chapter 55.
That's the one.
I really I'm glad you were late this morning. It gave me time to do my star translation, which I didn't do last week, which I wished I would have done before. It had some good stuff in it.
All right. Well, you want me to read one or what?
Yeah, go ahead.
55. He who is filled with virtue is like a newborn child. Wasps and serpents will not sting him. Wild beast will not pounce upon him. He will not be attacked by birds of prey. His bones are soft, his muscles weak, but his grip is firm. He has not experienced the union of man and woman, but is whole. His manhood is strong. He screams all day without becoming hoarse. This is perfect harmony. Knowing harmony is constancy. Knowing constancy is enlightenment. It is not wise to rush about controlling the breath, causes strain. If too much energy is used, exhaustion follows. This is not the way of Tao. Whatever is contrary to Tao will not last long. He who is in harmony with the Tao is like a newborn child. Its bones are soft, its muscles are weak, but its grip is powerful. It doesn't know about the union of male and female, yet its penis can stand erect. So intense is its vital power, it can scream its head off all day, yet it never becomes hoarse. So complete is its harmony. The master's power is like this. He lets all things come and go effortlessly, without desire. He never expects results. Thus, he is never disappointed. He is never disappointed.
One who is filled with the Tao is like a newborn child. The infant's protected from the stinging insects, wild beasts, birds of prey. Its bones are soft, its muscles are weak, but its grip is firm and strong. It doesn't know about the union of male and female, yet its penis can stand erect. Because of the power of life within him, it can cry all day and never become hoarse. This is perfect harmony. To understand harmony is to understand the constant. To know the constant is to be called enlightened. To unnaturally try to extend life is not appropriate. To try and alter the life breath is unnatural. The master understands that when something reaches its prime, it will soon begin to decline. Changing the natural is against the way of the Tao. Those who do it will come to an early end. A person filled with the power of Tao is like a baby boy. Bees can't sting him. Wild beasts can't attack him. A baby has soft bones and weak muscles, but a firm grip. He hasn't had sex, but he can get an erection. That's because he's got lots of energy. He can cry all day and never lose his voice. That's because he's at one with the world. If you're at one with the world, you know constancy. If you know constancy, you've been enlightened. It's not healthy to try to prolong your life. It's unnatural to impose the mind's will upon the body. People waste time and energy trying to be strong or beautiful, and their strength and beauty fade. They've lost touch with Tao, and when you lose touch with Tao, you might as well be dead. I like Mitchell's.
What are you going to title this one?
Do I?
This is the Tao of erections.
The Tao of baby erections. Now that would be perverted, wouldn't it?
I suppose so, yeah.
Here is Mitchell's comments. They're pretty good. Like a newborn child, the infant cries all day long without straining its throat. It clenches its fists all day long without cramping its hand. It stares all day long without weakening its eyes. Free from all worries, unaware of itself, it acts without thinking, doesn't know why things happen, doesn't need to know. The master's power is like this. To know harmony is to know the eternal. To know the eternal is to have insight. To improve upon life is ominous. To control the chi by the mind is aggressiveness. When they are too aggressive, things decay. This is non-Tao. Non-Tao soon ends. Doesn't need to know.
Yeah. Some of that uncarved block kind of stuff.
We don't need to learn more. We just need to know more.
Yeah.
Does that fit? It's not about learning, it's about knowing.
Yeah, that's such a, I don't know, I feel like that's such a powerful phrase there, that doesn't know why things happen, doesn't need to know. I feel like in some ways that's like the thing I'm constantly trying to remember. I'm trying to like recall that part of my childhood where that's the way that I was. You know what I mean? Trying to remember not needing to know why everything worked the way that it worked and why everything was the way it was and how everything was, and trying to put a label on everything. This is good and this is bad and all that.
That's what our whole conversation's been about this morning, was the need to know.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing. We've had the conversation before we knew what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Huh. How many times does that happen for us that it's like it's backwards. We don't say, let's talk about not needing to know, and then we can talk about this and this and this. That's not what happens. It's crazy. The need to know. How a child, an infant, and we have the need to know, so we immediately start programming our children with the need to know, right?
Yeah, sure. And you do it with all kinds of things that you think are normal, Like I remember my kids, girls, they would, when they were young, especially the oldest one, she'd see like a spider in its web. She would like walk up to it. She'd go put her face right up in it, and I didn't really care, but it's funny. You watch adults watching a baby walk up to a spider, and the baby is not the least bit worried or scared or concerned, and all of the adults are like, freaking out, and you're gonna kill yourself, and I don't know what they're quite afraid.
The master's power is like this. He lets all things come and go effortlessly, without desire. He never expects results, thus he is never disappointed. He is never disappointed, thus his spirit never grows old. Is that letting go of the need to know in some regard?
Yeah, in some regard. Yeah.
Lets all things come and go without desire. Okay. Not expecting results. All of that is knowing, needing to know. Yeah.
It's
So his
interesting.
spirit, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, that's what I was looking at. His spirit never grows old. It is kind of interesting how he frames it that way in terms of oldness, because it kind of compares the master, the sage, they compare them to back to, back to the newborn, screaming, all day. That you're as the master, your spirit will not be old. So I don't know. Kind of an interesting thought, that whole, like, you live your life to come back to the, some of the same state of awareness that you had as a baby,
Yeah, the idea that your spirit doesn't grow old because you lower your expectations.
Yeah.
That's how you remain young in spirit, is having that not knowing mind, that don't know mind, I think is the way I've heard it said. That beginner's mind. And the way we could start having that if we've lost it, which I don't know any adult that has not, that we start letting go of outcomes. We don't expect results. We lower our desires. We let things come and go effortlessly without desire. That would bring us back into that childlike attitude of not having to know, not having to have it all figured out.
Yeah. It really is one of the most, I don't know, with, having young kids and another one on the way. It is one of the things that I think about, but it is one of the most interesting things about, looking at a baby, especially when they're really young, is how completely in the moment they are. You know what I mean? And it's not a state that they've tried to achieve. It's not anything that they, they just naturally are so completely in the moment. The only thing that matters at all is what's right in front of their face. That it's like this complete. Well, it says in the verse here, it's complete harmony.
And it's the fact there's no more of their body to develop. Their body is already complete. So there's nothing for them to expect. There's no further expectation, You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's, well, it's that, I mean, certainly their body's going to keep growing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not that they're like, oh, my body's finished growing. It's just that that's not even on their radar. You know what I mean? Like as an adult, I think constantly like, well, I need to eat this kind of food or that kind of food, or, this habit and that habit, and constantly like, thinking of things in terms of like, I need to grow myself, I need to grow myself physically or spiritually or mentally, all the different ways that you can develop yourself. And the baby they don't have any of those thoughts. And yet they are gonna grow. They're doing everything that they need to do. Yeah. They're doing, yeah. I don't know. It's something, it's just crazy to try to imagine like what that kind of life would be like as an adult, where you're not trying to constantly move yourself somewhere else or, be a different way, or, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And I think we've dropped some of that, but the world is so full of that, is the opposite. We've got to figure it out. We've got to know where we're heading. We've got to know everything we can possibly know. We need to know. We need to know how we're going to retire and what money we're going to have there. And do we have this? Do we have that? Is my roof going to start leaking? This, that, I've got to know all these things. How old is my roof? Oh, maybe I need to plan. Those are expensive now, and then I'm off into wherever, and so that same kind of idea of just, I think what it is it just gets us out of the moment, all of that stuff. And what we're learning is that we need to bring it back to the moment. It's interesting too. He lets things come and go effortlessly without desire. All of that's in the moment.
Yeah.
Expecting results is not in the moment. Having desire would be out of the moment because it'd be a future expectation. Comes back to being in the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it starts out with he was in harmony with the Tao is the first phrase there.
Yeah, that's just the line I was looking at, actually.
I was looking at the Star translation of that.
Okay.
And it says one who possesses, as in Tao Te Ching, it's the day, Te. One who possesses day in abundance is how it says it. So that is in harmony with the Tao, is talking about virtue, power, character. That's all the ways day. That's the power of the Tao.
Yeah.
So one who has that power is like this, in its fullness, in its abundance.
Yeah. 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 So I'm thinking about at the end when it's talking about the master, who never says he never expects results, and then comparing that, it says he who is in harmony with the Tao is like a newborn child. So it's like these two, it's showing you like two pictures, you know what I mean? You've got the old master and the young master, essentially, like these two states where you've achieved mastery is a baby and, the older person, or I don't know. I don't know how old you have to be, but they're old. They're not a baby. You know what I mean? And the baby you think of as having this very they're very single-minded. They don't have ulterior motives. They don't have, they don't have an agenda. They don't have a plan. They're working out.
The only plan they have, Zach, is they will cry to get you to come pick them up. They want to be loved.
Yeah.
Cared for. That is their agenda,
Yeah, but even in that, it's just a reaction. It's like it's not like like how can I get somebody to come pick me up, or how can I get somebody to love me? It's just like stubbing your toe. You know what I mean? If you don't have it and then you scream, you know what I mean? Like if they need attention, they scream. It's a reaction. It's not a plan, it's not something that they've devised.
A preconceived, premeditated deal.
Yeah.
Like my son, when we took him for his 6-month checkup, I asked the doctor in front of my wife, I said, how old does he have to be before we can let him cry himself to sleep? He said, 6 months old. I said, how old is he now? He said, 6 months old. I said, now you heard that, right? She said, yeah, I heard it. First night he cried for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and went to sleep. Second night, 10. I think the third night, maybe a couple of 3 minutes. And then after that, he didn't cry again when it was time to go to sleep. And we did that not because we hated him. We loved him. He needed to learn to go to sleep, So what appeared to be love was letting him suffer a little. So it's kind of interesting, though. He wasn't mad at us the next day. He was happy to see us. He'd forgotten it, he was smiling and all happy when he woke up. So it wasn't like he, bit us when we picked him up because we made him, cry himself to sleep the night before.
Yeah, kids are they're pretty resilient. They don't
and it's in the
tend
moment.
to hold a grudge.
And it's in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely a lot of theories floating around about the best way to do that. And I don't know
what's right or not. I was just, using it as an example of love that may not look like love,
Yeah. Well, so what I was thinking about was like this, how, one of the things we keep, or at least that I keep, kind of coming back to or wondering about is, that whole like effortless action kind of idea. It's so paradoxical to me. It just, no matter how many times I hear an explanation for it and think, well, that kind of makes sense. Just the whole concept seems so, impossible to me that I just can't stop thinking about it, how it works and all that stuff. But like, I think the baby here in this, in this verse makes for a pretty good example of that, that effortless action. And in fact, that's what they're saying, they can, they'll run, scream, yell, be excited all day long and that's in perfect harmony with the Tao. You know what I mean? All of that effort, all of that energy is complete harmony. And that's interesting to me.
Okay. The reason I think for the child, it is effortless effort. It is still effort. The baby still cries, which is effort.
Mm-hmm.
The baby grasps, all those things, is that it is free of agenda and free of ego. Just like the sage lets things come and go effortlessly because there's no desire attached. Same kind of idea, I think. I think we get hung up on the effortless part as if it's, without our effort. I think it is about without our agenda, our selfish agenda. Maybe a better way to say effortless effort would be effort without self, or selfless effort. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, maybe a good example of that, Zach, is what we've talked about this morning. We didn't sit and create an outline or either discuss before what we were going to read or talk about. and come up with a outline to discuss. We just started talking and it just happened. We had to show up. We had to be available. And the rest of it just followed. We kind of just observed it happening, right? I think that's effortless effort. It's without our push and force.
Yeah. And I guess part of it too, we were talking about at the beginning, that idea of not knowing and becoming more comfortable with that state of not knowing. And I guess that's the thing. One of the things that kind of gets me about this idea of effortless effort is you're not going to know when you're there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if you're really there, if you're really like in the moment, you can't say to yourself, I'm really in the moment. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense or not. It might not. But like the baby never thinks to himself, how peaceful it is to be of a single mind, to not have an agenda.
Right.
They don't realize that they've achieved that state. And it just makes you wonder, like, if it's possible to hold those two things at the same time. Can you really lose your, if you, in terms of ego, I don't know if you can lose your ego and be aware that you lost your ego at the same time.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
How about this? I was meeting with a sponsee yesterday, and we were discussing the 6th step. Think about how this relates to what we were just talking about effortless effort and all Wu Wei and all of that. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. That is a state of effortless effort. It doesn't say we ask God to remove our defects of character. This is a 6th step. It says we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character.
Mm-hmm.
So we were ready for them to be removed by God, not praying for them to be removed, not trying to remove them. We're just in a state of readiness.
Mm-hmm.
And our problem was, the issue was not to remove them, but not only to be ready, but to be entirely ready, which means willingness. That is the letting go, is to be, okay, God, I'm ready. Anything you need out of me, I'm available. Is that readiness to act. And I think this is a lot the same way, is that I think our job is to become more available in the moment, in more moments of the day. And just be available, entirely ready. And just leave room for this power force of the universe to do with us to do our part, whatever that is. And that's really letting go of desire, letting go of expectations, letting things come and go, is being entirely ready. I see a lot of parallels there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The notion of being entirely anything is a little uncomfortable for me. Like,
me too.
Even that, like, even I could say I'm entirely ready, but like, I mean, even that, I'm like, am I? Am I really, or am I just saying it?
Well, but isn't the first action toward making a change is a lot of times is in the affirmation of that, or in the saying of that, like, with resentments, if you look at in the big book, page 552, talking about when we have a resentment against someone, we pray for them even when it's empty words and we don't mean it, and it's just empty words and we don't mean what we're saying. We do it anyway. So it's this idea of just like was a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Stephen Mitchell. Thanks for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever.
Yeah.
53, was it? 51, 53, whichever one it was we were talking about.
Right.
I've been using that a lot. It's 51. I've been using that a lot. I have it on my calendar now. It pops up like 4 or 5 times a day. Thanks for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever, And so, I'm using that as an affirmation when a lot of times I do have a complaint, but I'm saying something different, and it's changing how I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That chapter in the big book is into action, not into thinking, for a reason, because we have to get into action, For me, that action is letting go of those desires and I don't expect results when I let go of desire. That just happens naturally when I let go of desire.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Let me look and see if I've got anything else in the star. Things that are forced and pushed decay. A loving heart is your strength. I really like Mitchell's translation best. Whatsoever is not of the Tao comes to an end. Being comfortable with not knowing, huh?
Yeah.
Because desire is knowing, right? Or the need to know. Could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting. My Christian thinking was all about me knowing. Security.
Yeah.
So that was a belief system that created knowing. Now I can have that belief system without that, but that's how I interpreted it. It fed my knowing, my need to know.
Yeah.
Made me feel secure.
Yeah. I definitely think that there's a Christian tradition that doesn't include that, that that sort of ultra fundamentalist, like, there's an answer for everything.
I think it depends on how we come at Christianity. If we're coming at Christianity from a place of love and acceptance, or are we coming at Christianity from a place of fear? If we're down on fear and we're coming at Christianity because we're afraid we're going to die and go to hell, then I'm going to keep creating other ways to know more because I'm there to know. I'm not there to love. I'm there to know. That's a whole nother deal.
Yeah.
If God changes my heart and I move toward love, then it's okay if people don't agree with me. It's okay if it's just okay. My desires for what other people to think or know diminishes. They don't have to agree with me.
Right.
Nor do they have to know my opinion if I think something's different. Doesn't matter. The divisiveness starts leaving. It starts going, the walls start coming down, which is the whole point, I think.
Yeah. Interesting.
You have any questions for the sensei today? I asked him how long I should be meditating.
Yeah, what do you say?
He said, you'll know when you've meditated enough. I said, that's not an answer, man. I need to know exactly how long I have to meditate.
Yeah. I need a rule.
I need a rule. Exactly. I need to know. I have a desire that you need to achieve for me. I need to know,
Yeah.
He said most meditate 20 to 30 minutes twice a day is the kind of the rule of thumb. Unless
that's a lot.
Do what?
That's a good bit.
That's the average Zen practitioner.
Zenner.
Zenner.
Yeah.
That's the Georgia plural. The Georgia person who practices Zen, I guess, is a Zenner.
We know all the good words.
Do what?
And we know all the good words.
That's it. Zenist. Zen practitioner. He said, now, if you really want enlightenment and want to really get serious, you may meditate a lot more. I said, okay. But I don't know. I just want to, I still think I need a teacher for some reason. Maybe that's my need to know. Maybe I don't need a teacher.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
I'm going to let this resonate. There's a lot more. This is going to be, this need to know, I think, is one of the base ego issues. And it permeates everything. This need to know. And it goes back to letting go again, where we started.
Mm-hmm. So you're meeting with him in a little bit. So what are you gonna ask him? What, you got a plan?
I'm going to ask him what traits I should look for in a teacher, and if I really need a teacher or not. His opinion from people and from his years practicing Zen. Do I really need a teacher? And then what traits I should look for, and just see from there what evolves in conversation. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I like him. He's a really great guy. He'll come on and talk if we ever want him on. He's happy to come on. He'll come on anytime. And I think he's going to be on the Tao podcast sometime. He said he'd be happy to.
Yeah, I'd be into it.
He's a really nice guy. I'm learning how to, you have to bow to him and do the hands and the bow and all of that. I'm learning how to be respectful, and the Japanese words there. You've got the Zendo, which is where you meet, then you meet for Sangha. You call him a sensei.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I'm learning the vernacular, but we'll see. I don't know. I think I have to look at the fruit. If there's things I don't like, but yet I feel I'm getting something out of it, then I think I need to ignore the things I don't like. Maybe that's where I'm landing right now.
Or I don't know. Somebody in AA or something told me one time. He said, "Just take what you can use."
Yeah. Who was that? Take what you can use and leave the rest. That's exactly it, Zach. That's exactly it. So I think I'm looking for the perfect place. I'm not going to find it because I've arrived there. It's not going to be perfect anymore.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I am learning about meditation, and it's interesting how their path to enlightenment is all meditation, nothing else. Now they do some service and things, but their idea is that once you're free of self through meditation, then all that's left is compassion. So they're arriving at the same place, just using a different medium to get there.
Yeah.
I'm fixing to start studying John Main's book on Christian meditation with a sponsee. We're fixing to start reading that. We're finishing up the 12th tradition right now. Then we're going to start reading that book on Christian meditation. So I'm interested to see. I've listened to his stuff, but I haven't read the book. So I'm interested. He died in the 80s, but he brought meditation back into the Christian community, and there was a practice of meditation, with the early fathers, and then it was lost over time. So he brought it back into the forefront. So I'm interested in seeing. He uses a mantra for his meditation. So what kind of meditation is that with a mantra? Whatever it is.
Yeah, the mantra one.
The mantra meditation, yeah. So I'm interested in seeing how his book goes.
Transcendental.
Transcendental, okay.
Meditation, I think is what one of them that uses a mantra.
Breathing, right? Mindful meditation is focusing on the breath mostly.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know. If you don't know it, we can just make up a word for it. It won't hurt anything.
They don't understand my accent anyway. So. Some Indian word. Have I got to learn whatever the Indian language is too? There's all these languages with all these things meshed together, and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to learn a new language. I've been working on Chinese for the Tao Te Ching. Now Japanese for the Zen. Do I have to learn? What is it? I don't know. It's not Hindu. What is it? Whatever the language is. Sanskrit, whatever it is for that Indian language, you know.
Yeah. I already had to learn English for Jesus.
Yeah. That's good, man. And some Greek. I learned some Greek for Jesus too.
Oh, yeah.
All right, my friend, is that it? You good?
That's it. We'll see.
All right,
thanks.
Later.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.